Hi everyone, it's Steve Barrett here, PRWeek Editor-in-Chief. We're just about to record our weekly podcast. As you can hear, I've still got my cough. I'm sorry to go on about that every week, but it seems to rise up its ugly head around podcast time. But we'll see, hopefully get through a good podcast without too many problems. Got a great guest this week. We've got Jim Trainor from Hyundai, like Sunday, Hyundai Motor North America. So welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
To have you.
Great to be here
on board. And we got Diana Bradley, who's our associate news editor, but also our consumer specialist. How are you doing, Diana?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah,
How
good.
are you?
I'm good. I don't think we've done a podcast together for a while.
It's been a few weeks.
Yeah. So welcome back,
Thank you.
Perry Simpson behind the dials, as always. If you've got any comments, please append them to the feed. Try and make them, pleasant, constructive. And if you have any questions, we have once or twice even managed to insert them into the show through the magic of hand signals and various other things. So hope you enjoy the show, and we're about to kick off. Hello and welcome to the PR Week, PR Week's regular weekly roundup of everything that matters in the worlds of PR and communications. My name's Steve Barrett. I'm the editor-in-chief of PR Week. Going to guide you gently through the show. 25-30 minutes of broadcast magic. That's what we like to try and do here. And we have a fantastic guest this week in town for the New York Auto Show. It's Jim Trainor from Hyundai Motor North America. How are you doing, Jim?
I'm doing swell.
Swell. Enjoying hanging out at the Javits Centre. What's not to like?
You said 25 minutes?
Yeah, we'll keep it upbeat. We'll keep it upbeat.
It's great to be here, though.
Yeah. No, it's great to have you here. We've looked forward to having you guest on the show. Jim's Director of Comms, based in Orange County, California. So, different weather over here. Sorry about that. But at least you weren't here for the snow last week. I think it was 10 inches of snow last Thursday. So the auto show escaped that one. And we've got Diana Bradley here. She's our Associate News Editor and Consumer Guru. You'll have seen her breaking stories, fantastic articles. We're going to talk about some of her content today. How are you doing, Diana?
Thank you. I have a big head.
Do you?
Yep, thank you. Thank you so much for this sweet
very well
intro.
deserved. And doing some great content for us. And enjoying your new role, doing a bit more news editing?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's
helping the Grandmaster of News, Frank Washcook, who's having a well-deserved couple of days vacation. So Diana's stepping in. We're going to talk about Hyundai like Sunday.
Yes.
That is how you remember how to pronounce it. Thank you, Jim, for the reminder. We'll then talk about the New York Auto Show as it's in town this week, and the role of auto shows generally. Very sad news about Tom Harris, who was one of the co-founders of Golin Harris. He passed away this week, so we'll reflect on his career. Bit of controversy around a Heineken ad this week, which Diana's been covering, and Chance the Rapper has sort of weighed in on that, and crazy strategy behind that ad on the surface. Anyway, we'll chat about that. Some interesting people moves, been getting some good traction on the site. And I don't know if we'll have time, we might talk about Facebook as well, although we did cover that quite a lot last week. But Jim, let's start with you. You've been at, like many people in the auto sector, you had 18 years at Ford, then you went away to the tech sector, and then came back to Hyundai 10 years ago. It is funny how people do, the auto comms fraternity is a very close-knit one, isn't it? And most people know each other. So talk us through that, and what is it about that attracts you to that area of communications?
No, you're right. It's a very special industry. It's huge, yet it's small.
Yeah.
And I left for a few years. I was going to get rich with a startup and that whole thing, and I came back with my tail between my legs a little bit, but happily, actually. And I found that after being gone 5 years, not a lot had changed, and a lot of the great people were still out there, whether it's on the media side, the PR side, the automotive executives. So I think it's an industry, once you're in it, you realize this is the best industry around. And it's exciting, it's cars, we're car guys and gals everywhere you look. I grew up in Dearborn, Michigan, Henry Ford's hometown, so this was, I think I was preordained. Yes, and it is, families, and this is what you grow up interested in, and then to be in that field is really pretty special. And it's exciting, it's different every day. and I love it.
And 18 years at Ford, but now at a very different company, Hyundai. Talk us through that and what's the biggest differences and the big sort of strategic push for Hyundai in establishing itself in America.
Without making some big generality statement, I think it's safe to say that the Korean culture is very hard-working. They're hard-working folks, and you see that at Hyundai. It can be very, very challenging at times, but boy, we are pushed to be the best. And can you really argue that that's a bad thing?
No.
Right. So I think we all learn to appreciate the fact that we're always trying to be the best. We probably work harder than others. We've got smaller staffs. We got 9 folks, and that's it for a big company like ours. Yeah, on my team is nine people.
That's to cover North America.
That's right, and it's fun. As much as we work, the dedication that you see every day from my team, Hyundai employees everywhere, it's a great place to be.
Yeah. And we were having a bit of a joke about the pronunciation, but actually that has been a part of your branding and establishing yourselves. And you were talking about a Super Bowl ad a couple of years ago, which actually went in on that theme. So how has that developed over time? I think when Hyundai first came in, nobody had a clue. Whereas I think now most people can have a stab at pronouncing it.
Well, it's never been difficult when you have GM and Ford. So we've had to work at it a little bit more than they do. But we have had some fun with it over the years. And, we're only at about 4% market share, so we're not huge yet. Yet we're selling in the 700,000 unit range, so we're a pretty big company. But we've had some fun with the name, the Super Bowl commercial. But we keep having to push it along.
Yeah. So tell me about auto companies are kind of iconic, aren't they? And the issue that is always going to come up with auto companies, and they're global, is the whole thing about where you're manufacturing your parts, the jobs you're providing. And I guess if you're selling in Europe, Europeans want your manufacturing bases there. In America, people want the manufacturing base in America. In Asia, the same. And clearly in this environment, these things are getting more and more high profile, with the president sort of earmarking certain firms. That must be been a big sort of communications challenge over the last 18 months. Talk us through how you've addressed that and the key talking points, if you like, when you're telling Hyundai stories.
Right. It's a good question. It's a big question. We could talk about tariffs and NAFTA and those sorts of things all day long. Yeah. Not a day goes by where I'm not talking to our team in Washington, D.C. They're at the show here. Had 2 meetings with them this morning, in fact. So it's very, very important. But I'm proud to say that our plant in Alabama, we produce more than 40% of the cars that we sell in the U.S. So some of our bigger volume cars are built right here in the States, and the rest we ship in from Korea, of course. But it's talk about free trade. We embody that, and but it's going to be a pretty big issue as of late with the aluminum and steel tariffs and NAFTA and the Korea-U.S. Fair Trade Agreement. So it's there really in everything that we do.
How do you approach that from a comms point of view? And it's big talking points for your CEO, who I assume you work with closely, and how's that played out for you?
I reach over to my briefcase and show you our 30-page briefing document for the show, and that's what we do. We spend a lot of time with statements and Q&As and fact sheets. We're prepared, I like to think, for any question that might come up, whether it's on the new Santa Fe or on aluminum. We've got it all. Our new CEO has been with us just a number of months now, and he's like a sponge. He absorbs everything we throw at him. That's great for a PR person, right? And we try to get ready for a whole big list of the questions that might be coming our way.
You mentioned you have a relatively small team, and I remember being at the Detroit Auto Show, and everyone's there. You've got 25 press conferences a day, but one every half hour. The media room is absolutely packed. How do you make yourself stand out in that environment? We'll talk a bit more in detail about the shows, but just generally, how do you make Hyundai stand out when, with the best people in the world, like GM and Ford, they've got bigger budgets?
It's very a very topical question too, Steve, that we're looking at these things now, because anything you're doing today that you were doing 10, 20 years ago, you kind of got to wonder a little bit, is this still the right way, the best way to do this? I think it's important to keep in mind, these numbers are inflated, but let me throw them out at you anyway. At the big shows in Detroit, LA, and New York, there'll be 4,000 or 5,000 media there. So right away, I think I want to be there. Now, we might have a discussion about, geez, do you really want to launch a car when you have a 25-minute window and 32 other people are doing the same thing that you're doing, and you're all fighting for the same coverage? That's a fair topic of discussion. We have that regularly, but the media are there, and we want to go where the media are. We seed them ahead of time with a lot of information so they know what we're going to be doing. That's been a key, I think, for our success, and I think we've had a lot of success in coverage-wise, is working with media a lot ahead of time, so they have our materials, they have time to put smart stories together. So auto shows, CES is an auto show in early January. Really, I mean, we're all there.
I was going to ask about that. Because technology seems to be driving a lot of the messaging now around.
Cars are, the autonomous vehicles is another topic that we can talk about for the whole show. Maybe you'll let me back if I don't totally screw things up today. We can talk about that. But we launched our next generation fuel cell vehicle at CES because it made sense. That was a good place to do it. That car's loaded with technology. CES is a technology show. We got a lot of coverage from it. And 4 or 5 years ago, we would have been talking about, did we introduce it at the Detroit Auto Show or the New York Auto Show? Now CES is on our radar, and there's not even a doubt that that's a key auto show. Yeah.
The other thing I noticed the auto shows is that it's not just media. I mean, you've got new influencers, and you've got your own content teams producing your own owned media content for Hyundai or the other car makers. So how's that changed what you do and how you how you get your stories across?
I know the folks at my office are smiling right now because you used the word influencers, and that's something we talk about every day. And I think as the leader of our team, I'm paid to be pessimistic about things, but influencers are really important to us now, and we're starting to work with them more and more at auto shows, at our big product launch events, just on every touch point that we have. And we're speaking with them just like we're speaking with the traditional automotive media. We had a media dinner on Monday night, and we had some influencers there with the guys from Car and Driver and Motor Trend. And that's the expanding nature of our business. And it's just another reason I think that what we do in PR is just so interesting because it changes all the time. So influencers are a topic of discussion on a daily basis.
For sure.
At the office.
Diana, you write about influencers every week and feature one a month.
I sure do.
What's the sort of, where are we at with the influencers? We've seen a few influencers go back, haven't we? What's the thinking around that now, and how do brands sort of make sure that they're working with credible influencers?
It seems like more brands are realizing that they definitely need to vet influencers before they really get intertwined with them. So that's a new thing that's happening more and more. And then also micro influencers seem to be on the
rise.
On the rise, yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
So as opposed to celebrities or people with just a huge following. So
yeah, that's a good point. How do you know how much you should be paying for these? For this coverage?
And I kind of I smile because so a year 2 years ago influencers, right, and we're on to that, okay, influencers, and then it's like no. Micro influencers. Oh, okay. We got to go up to the micro influencers, and it's important to do your storytelling. Oh, now we had to use. So all these buzzwords and buzz groups are out there, and vetting them, like you said, is so important. Ketchum's our agency of record, and they do a great job identifying these influencers for us, and we vet them very carefully. But to me, the best vetting process is, okay, let's bring them to a program and see how they perform. There are so many out there, and we've got so many products to launch and so many programs to conduct. We can afford a little bit. If we bring 20 influencers into a program, and now we're paying for them, we're risking some amount of money. But guess what? If we find 10 out of the 20, just to throw out a number, and I don't think it has to be 50%, but just for our discussion, that we really like, I think that's great. We'll work with those 10 the next time, and maybe we'll find another 10 who are equally as helpful to our brand and our messages. So I think that's kind of fun. And in a way, that's not terribly different than when we went to the Detroit Free Press, the Detroit News, USA Today, and we're working with reporters at all those places. Hey, guess what? All those reporters weren't great for the Hyundai brand. Well, you learn to work with them, or you learn to work around them and find the people who you can. So I really enjoyed the debate I have with the folks at the office who are a lot younger than me and a lot smarter than me on influencers and where we're going with social media. But I think it's great that we have these discussions, that I can kind of bring that, old traditional point of view into their young
context.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right, let's get into the auto shows. We kind of danced around them a bit, but you did mention CES, South by, there's lots of other shows where you can go now and launch. What's the role of the auto show now? Because there's 5 or 6 big ones around the world that you've got to be at, I guess, and then there's Detroit National Auto Shows, the big one in January. We're New York this week, and does each one have its own specific character that you have to change your strategy for?
They used to have real definition. New York was luxury car, LA was green car, Detroit was kind of big 3, maybe even a little muscle car, Mustang, Corvette, Camaro kind of thing. Those are blurring a little bit. The vehicles you'll see in New York, which was the luxury show, we just revealed 3 CUVs. They're not luxury vehicles. Nissan launched a compact sedan. Cadillac has a new CUV. So the lines have really blurred. A lot of it really has to do with the cadence of your product. And I was saying to you, Steve, when we were chatting earlier, it just so happened that launching the 3 CUVs that we did, the timing was perfect. We got this show. We got these 3.
So sometimes it's a timing thing as well.
Most of the time, to be honest with you, we're looking at shows 3 or 4 years from now, going, geez, the next generation Santa Fe is going to be new in 2020 whatever. That lines up with Detroit or whatever.
And the other thing we were talking about is, you've been in the auto sector, a number of years.
A number.
Seen a few shows,
big number.
Seen your time.
Yeah.
But the makeup of the US population's changed. So in New York, if you walk around that show now, it's a high Hispanic, African American, Asian American, a very diverse audience. That probably wasn't the case 25, 30 years ago when you probably first started going to the show. So if you're not target, those are the new consumers, new middle class, lots of disposable income. They all want to buy cars. Sometimes they're new customers who are going for their first car. So I guess your CUVs are going to be a better target for that market.
In not too long ago, we talk about some of the, say the Hispanic market, like it was this crazy thing that nobody understood. I mean, now it's just every day. And I was saying again, Steve, sorry to repeat myself to you, but our Ketchum office in Miami is there to deal with the preponderance of Hispanic media are in Miami, and a couple. We had 2 of the outlets were at this dinner I just mentioned to you, and to be honest with you, till right now, I didn't even think, we've got 2 Hispanic media. We just had them there just like everybody else. But that's the change, I think, that's taken place. That it used to be, you better get some Hispanic, we better talk to some lifestyle, we better talk to some women's magazines. I think it's just the people we deal with now, and the lines have blurred. I just think maybe we're just a little bit smarter and more tuned to what the real world is.
You mentioned Ketchum's your AOR. Would you use Ketchum to approach all those audiences, or would you take on a specific, Hispanic-focused agency, for example, or another agency that's more specialized?
It's a good question, primarily because we've had both. And we had a specialized Hispanic agency in Miami. We've changed over, and now we just have a Ketchum office down there. I think what's really important, though, is that the agency puts the right person in those jobs. And Ketchum has done that. And we have someone, I'm proud to say, in our Miami office who, I can't tell you the number of journalists who said he's the best in the industry. So I think that's probably the more important part, and the fact that it's in the Ketchum, universe just makes it easier and better. I love, I've worked with boutique agencies. I've worked with the big agencies like Ketchum and others. I love the big agency concept because they can get small when they want to, but it's hard for the small ones to get big when they want to. So Ketchum can really, focus in special areas. I was just at a meeting before I came here, and we're talking esports.
Yeah,
and they've got experts in that. Boy, talk about a world where we're spending a lot more time. But they've got that expertise. Then they've got, the Hispanic market covered in Miami. They're a huge help to us in our social media outreach. So we're going the route of the big agency with the right person to handle Hispanic.
Yeah, so they've evolved their offers. So,
exactly. Exactly.
Are you? Sorry, sort of one more question.
Go on then.
Are you finding that younger consumers aren't rushing to buy cars as early as older generations have?
There a couple of years ago, there's this big thing that young people aren't buying cars, and I think we just all kind of went along with that narrative for a while. Then a few of us decided maybe we should look into that. I don't think it's as prevalent as you might have heard. There are enthusiasts at every level, but here's why it's dangerous to. I try not to even use the term millennial because I have two of them. I have two boys who are millennials. One couldn't care less about the car he drives. The other one is a car nut who founded a car club and raced his car at a track in California. They're both millennials. They're both they're both male. What group is that? So I don't think. You'd probably find that a lot of young people are getting their driver's license a little bit later, but I also think there are other extenuating circumstances for that. If you're living in New York City, are you going to rush out? I mean, we used to, when we were 14 years old, living in Dearborn, Michigan, before shift interlock comes, you'd get up in the middle of the night, push mom and dad's car down the street, and then start her up so they wouldn't hear you and go joyriding around. I don't know if I knew people that did that.
We're not advertising.
Don't try this at home.
Especially my 16-year-old nephew up in Boston who's just got his driving license.
No, I don't think people do that today. But that kind of thing still exists. There are young people that are just nuts about cars. So I'm not as worried that they're not coming to us. And a lot of these social media outreach programs are designed to get to these younger folks. So I don't think it's as big an issue as it was originally made out to be.
Right.
Yeah, it's more complicated, the segmentation, isn't it? Let's get into the news, Dinah. Sad news about Tom Harris passing away, the co-founder of Golan Harris, along with Al Golan. And coincidentally, Al, it's coming up to the first anniversary of his death, actually, in early April. But he was another pioneer in the industry.
Thomas Harris, he died on Monday. He was 86, and just to give you a little bit of background, Al Golan started what would become Golan Harris International in 1956 when he brought in business from McDonald's, a client that has become synonymous with the agency's legacy. And then Harris later became president of then Golan Communications during the 70s. The agency was rebranded to Golan Harris in 1981 to reflect his contributions. So Harris, he was also vice chairman and partner, and he retired from the IPG firm 25 years ago, while Golan continued to serve as chairman, and then Golan Harris later rebranded to Golan in 2014. Harris led a career that stretched decades across the PR and advertising industry. He was named to PRWeek's 100 most influential public relations people of the 20th century.
That is true. That was mentioned in his obituary, and something we're we're proud of having Tom in that group.
Yep.
Yeah, sad news. Our thoughts with family and friends and everyone at Golin. I was emailing with Tom's son this week, and they hopefully will celebrate Tom's life as well as the obvious mourning process there. So, yeah, let's move on to this Heineken Ads. This is a really curious story. Diana, just talk us through it, because we couldn't work out whether this was Heineken just being tone deaf or whether they were deliberately trying to spark a controversy. What's your take on it? Well, first of all, tell us what it is. And then
Sure. So on Sunday night, Chance the Rapper tweeted about a Heineken ad. It features the tagline, "Sometimes lighter is better." And it basically includes a light-skinned woman goes up to a bar, and the bartender slides a drink over to her, and it passes by, I think, 3 black people, and then it gets to her, and it says, and then the slogan comes up, "Sometimes lighter is better." So Chance the Rapper tweeted about it on Sunday night, saying, I'm not saying boycott Heineken or anything, but this is, I think he said it's terribly racist. Yeah, terribly racist was his words, and he said that he thinks that it's getting to the point now where it's obvious brands are doing this on purpose. This kind of advertising to get people to talk about their product.
That's a pretty risky strategy, though, isn't it? To go down that road.
And then they actually ended up pulling the ad the very next day. They put out a statement saying that they missed the mark with the ad, and then later on they pulled that ad and the whole series of commercials they had associated with the tagline, "Sometimes lighter is better." I don't know if the other commercials were similar or if they just pulled them because of the tagline.
Yeah, this is probably the time where I should not say anything, because I haven't seen that commercial, and part of being a good PR person is knowing when not to speak up. But I want to say something. Commercials today are just such fodder for people, and I'm not talking about the Heineken one, I'm just in general, for people just to have their voices heard and complain. And,
yes.
And
people love to complain about everything.
You get the Dodge commercial in the Super Bowl with Martin Luther King Jr. Using his speeches, and when I first saw that on TV, I said, "Darn, I wish I would have thought that the Super Bowl's on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. That was a really nice spot." Mm-hmm. I thought it was, I just very respectful. Next morning is blowing up about how in the world could Dodge even think of using Martin Luther King Jr. to sell trucks. And we took a little heat for our, we have a cause that we support, and we've given $130 million over 20 years for finding a cure for pediatric cancer. So we advertised the Super Bowl because it's 20th anniversary. We didn't have a car in the spot, and we just thought, hey, if anybody here watching this TV spot has bought a Sonata or any Hyundai product over the years, did you know you helped donate to this? Every car the company donates and the dealer donates, you helped find a cure for pediatric cancer. Great. Well, we took some heat for that too, because people just wanted to complain that we're trying to sell cars on kids with cancer.
Consumers are cynical.
I think we got to be careful, or we're just going to sit in our houses and never say anything to anybody, because there's such an easy process now to get behind your keyboard and complain about stuff that probably doesn't deserve to be complained about.
I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I also think brands have got to be smart about this. I mean, sometimes lighter is better. That just seemed to really kind of tone deaf to me. And I saw the piece, and it's pretty.
It was shocking.
It's like that Pepsi ad last year. Which Jenner was it? Kendall, Kylie,
one of the Kardashians. Well, but so you gotta believe, and this is the thing for us with our Super Bowl commercial. This thing was researched heavily. Yeah. If you're not researching these things, you're probably making a pretty big mistake.
The Pepsi one is a good example, and that was done in-house. They didn't have an agency involved, so often the agency will do that research. But I do think, people have always made ads with the intention of getting them banned. That's not a new strategy, and you get more sort of attention than you would have done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's where does creativity stop and offensiveness come in? You're right about social media. Little things can be taken out of context. The debate is at a very low level, and it's quickly. And for brands, you have to learn how to engage in that and navigate it, and know when to step in, when to just stand back. You know, and it's a big issue now, for sure. So
the outrage passes so quickly, though, and it rarely has a long-lasting impact on the brand.
Well, our favourite crisis, United Airlines. I mean, they keep putting their foot in it.
Yeah.
The latest one with the dog in the overhead compartment.
Yeah. And 2 days later, it's gone.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. We will talk about that in future shows for sure. Yeah, it's just quickly to wrap up because we are sort of running over a bit. There's some interesting people stories this week, Diana, so just sort of fill us in on those.
Alicia Thompson has joined Edible Arrangements as VP of Communications. And Thompson, she's been at Porter for the last year as MD leading their Atlanta office, and before that she led Edelman's Atlanta office.
Yeah, that's right.
So she's joined Edible Arrangements as the Wallingford, Connecticut-based fruit bouquet maker is reportedly planning to open a second headquarters in Atlanta.
Right.
So.
And actually, Alicia is going to be a member of our Hall of Fame. I don't know if I'm giving away. I probably am giving away a secret, which we're announcing on Monday. So congratulations to Alicia for that. Ed Dandridge, another interesting exec move, been getting a lot of traffic on the site.
Yep, American International Group has hired Ed Dandridge as head of marketing and communications for its general insurance business, which is a newly created role. He'll start on April 16th and report to Peter Zaffino, who is CEO of General Insurance. Dandridge is joining AIG from Marsh & McLennan, where he served as Global Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for 4 years. And Zaffino was actually Marsh & McLennan's CEO for 6 years until his exit in 2017.
Okay, so it's one of those where you follow the CEO around, which is not uncommon. And interesting that he's doing marketing and communications in 2 roles in a row. Diana, you've done some great content. I was talking about that earlier. Just briefly, talk about this Peloton piece you wrote, because that was a lot of fun. Is Peloton a cult? And what is Peloton anyway? We shouldn't be talking about cycling in front of a car guest, but we're going to.
No, I'm a road biker, so I'm very interested in Peloton.
So as an objective journalist, because I do own a Peloton and I love it, and if it is a cult, I'm gladly a part of it.
So the idea is you're doing the cycling, exercising at home, but you're networked in with with people all around the country.
There's a screen attached to it. You can do live classes. You could do on-demand classes, and it's great. Yeah. You don't even need to go to a gym anymore. You just have it's like having a gym in your house. It's great. It's wonderful.
You should be a spokesman woman for them.
Well, when I talked to the marketing head over there, Carolyn Tish Blodgett, she actually said that the members sell the bikes more than they do. That's like a very big part of their
one thing I liked about it was the little mini bikes for the kids as well.
Well, they don't sell them.
Oh, they don't?
They're Fisher Price.
Oh, right. Okay.
Fisher Price has a little bike for toddlers, and the marketing head at Peloton, when she got the Peloton in her house, her 3-year-old daughter was very jealous, so she got her own version with the Fisher Price bike, and they ride next to each other, which is so cute.
One. Yeah, it's a good piece, well worth checking out. We have another great piece about Natalie Moore, who is Sean Coombs' EV of Communication, otherwise known as Diddy, Puff Daddy, Perry
P.
Simpson,
Diddy.
Help me out. P. Diddy. What? He has a different... Diddy.
So
it's
many
Diddy
names.
now. So that's a really interesting piece, actually.
And Diddy retweeted it. Himself.
He did, yes, he did. So thank you for that, Mr. Diddy. That's a really fascinating piece about doing comms for Sean Coombs. We have our Champions of PR, which were announced this Monday, and then the Hall of Fame list is going to be announced on the following Monday in 3 days' time. So look out for those great women in PR. We always love to celebrate that every year, so that's a good piece. And Facebook, we didn't get around to it, but there's a great piece on on the site with reactions from Comms Pros about their thoughts on Facebook and the whole Cambridge Analytica situation, which is definitely a topic that we could fill another show with. But listen, thanks, Jim. It's been a real pleasure, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Thank you.
At the lovely Javits Centre and the Wi-Fi and all that good stuff.
Yeah, oh boy.
And just a couple of customer service things. May the 3rd, we have our Brand Film Festival in New York. That's at the Paley Media Centre. We do that with our sister title campaign. All the best films produced on behalf of brands, cinematic storytelling on behalf of brands, and I've just looked at the films this year and they're a fantastic crop of films. I think we're going to announce those next week as well, so check those out and come to the show. It's going to be brilliant. And Global Awards, they're in London on May the 15th, looking forward to that one. And our conference is all set for Chicago on October the 18th. We're taking the conference on the road and really looking forward to that. But yeah, that's all we got time for this week. Please join us again next week for the PR Week.